All right, so I'm going to sign our recycling bill that we passed last week.
Yes.
So we're going to do that.
Yes.
All right.
Wait, you're a lefty?
Yeah, I'm a lefty.
What?
All right, this is our sustainability resolution. Our first award, though, we want to give out is actually not to a senator, but to our Senate advisor, Mr. Attendee, for taking all the time these last 4 years and beyond to really advise and support us in all our endeavors and initiatives. So thank you, Mr. Next, you want to do the attendance ones? Okay.
Yes. Okay. So the next awards go to the senators who have over 90%, who have attended over 90% of Senate meetings this year. So first is Jacob Stavis. Carol Zane. And Sam Fishman.
Where is that? Let's not do that. Here we go. Okay, so just figured time we're going to mix this together. But this year we passed an Executive Reorganization Act, which basically allowed senators who really want to assist the President, the Vice President of the Senate, and the Senate administration who, when we're overbooked, but really want to contribute to the work we do. And this year, 2 senators stood up to the plate. Sam Fishman, who helped us with our advisory program and hooking up senators with students who really can hook up our public relations program. And Peter Belsley, who's been here before he was even a senator, helping us with our technology work and making sure that we have the projectors that work and a website and our Facebook page. So if you guys come up, thank you for might be something. So next we'd like to recognize all the members of the Senate leadership, the secretaries, the Secretary of Public Relations, and the chairs, who all really helped Peter and I run our meetings, stay in touch with newspapers, make sure attendance and records were taken, and really helped us, the executive part of the Senate, really function well. And especially want to recognize Abby Patton, who's one of our few senators who's been a chair for 2 years in a row. So thank you. So first we'd like to recognize someone who, an appointment, because this year we actually appointed 5 senators to fill seats that were left by open seats from the election last year. And this is a senator who really came in, really embraced our mission here, really brought ideas to the table, and really came in immediately and really understood what the Senate was. And for that, we'd like to recognize Laura Song as the appointed.
So this award goes to the Rookie of the Year. This awards the best freshman senator, and this goes to Katie Collins. Yeah, Katie.
All right.
I told you.
Well, next we'd like to recognize the committee chairman of the year. And the committee chairman is, as many probably know, the Senate works well with the president and vice president, but it really can't get done without the committee chairs who really focus on specific issues. And whether it's working in the Commons rooms or working on great transparency, really having the people who manage the Senate on the lower levels. And for that, I'd like to recognize a senator who was always committed, who went above and beyond with starting a Facebook group for their committee, communicating with the administration, and for that we'd like to recognize Sam Fishman as the senator. All right, and then finally, one last award. This goes to the Center of the Year. So the Center of the Year is someone. We had a lot of good people to choose from. This was the first year actually I opened the polls to nominations for senators to nominate who they would like to see as the Center of the Year. And Center of the Year is someone who really embraces that mission of communicating with students, bringing their issues to the table, making sure, really bringing the enthusiasm. And the person we chose in the end was someone who really plays a leadership role in the Senate, who's always willing to give advice, who always brings enthusiasm, whether it's a freshman or a senior, really wants to work well with everyone and really made a difference in the Senate this year. And for that, we'd like to recognize Mikhail Yunus.
The last award is going to be going to Jeff. So here in the Senate, we do things, with resolutions, pieces of legislation, and so this is a special resolution honoring President Jack Lovett. So whereas for the past 2 years, Jack Lovett III has served as the president of the Newton South Senate, and whereas during his tenure, he has constantly exceeded the expectations of his position by successfully leading the Senate to an outstanding state of organization and productivity. And whereas Jack Lovett employed 2 programs, one he entitled the New Frontier Program, and the other, the Great Community Program, which both made official the ideals that Jack Lovett brought to the Senate, such as internal order, reform, leadership, innovation, vision, and collaboration amongst all parties involved in the school community, administration, faculty, and students. And whereas Jack Lovett brought to the Senate, and moreover the Newton South community at large, his charisma, love of politics, and hard work ethic. And whereas Jack Lovett worked tirelessly throughout his tenure to gain legitimacy for the Newton South Senate and to substantially involve its student constituency in the legislative process in such ways as the advisory program and town hall meetings. And whereas Jack Lovett is responsible for the passage of more legislation than any previous president and for creating the Presidential Executive Board. And whereas the Senate President, Jack Lovett, galvanized the Senate to participate in philanthropic activity at Newton South High School by organizing bake sales to fundraise money to donate to Newton South financial aid programs. And whereas Jack Lovett overall enhanced the Newton South Senate as a student government and enhanced the student experience at Newton South High School in ways that shall live long past his 2 significant years as the President of the South Senate. And now, therefore, it be resolved that the Newton South Senate honors the work of President John Lovett III during his 2 years as President of the Newton South Senate and recognizes the phenomenal impact that John Lovett III has had on the Newton South community as a whole.
So I guess the last piece of our agenda is my farewell speech, so I guess we'll get started with that. Thank you so much for unanimously passing that resolution last week.
Well, thank you for asking.
One last time, right? Exactly. All right. Vice President Claims, former Vice President Attorney, Mr. Attendee, distinguished guests, and my fellow senators and students. Today marks the last meeting and closing ceremony of the 2013 and 2014 session of the Senate. Even though, according to the Senate Constitution, my term does not end until the last week of May, this is effectively my last meeting ever as a senator for the class of 2014 and as your Senate President. I would like to share with you my final assessment of the state of the Senate and some thoughts I have had for a while. I still remember far back in May of 2010, back when I was still at Oak Hill Middle School, when one of my teachers had asked me, "What activities do you plan to pursue in high school?" I told him I knew exactly what I wanted to do. I was going to be a South Senator. 4 years later is May of 2014. It's almost hard for me to believe that that journey of mine is coming to an end. I've had the honor of serving as your Senate President for 2 years. I believe it's worth reflecting on what those 2 years have meant. Although the Senate has existed for many years, there comes a time when a turning point occurs, when if there is not a clean break with the past, at least the fulfillment of many of its oldest initiatives, and then stepping forward into a new environment to pursue new goals. This has been one of those times. When I became Senate President, the Senate was at a low point. Legislative process had come to a halt. It had become impossible to achieve a quorum at any of our meetings. Meeting agendas were not being distributed, and minutes were no longer taken. What was worse for me was the loss of legitimacy among the student body. Instead of delivering results and change, our organization had been symbolically reduced to that internet meme on highschoolmemes.com. But there was a group on the Senate that believed that the negative path of our student government was not set in stone. We thought it was high time that the Senate improved. After I'd become president, Nicholas Herney vice president, and Abby Packin chair, we immediately got to work, preparing a program that would transform the Senate into an organization that could conquer the challenges at hand. Born was our New Frontier program, continued this year by the Great Community Program, an idealistic mix of internal reform and external initiatives with the intention of transforming the Senate into the functional and responsive student government we believe the student body deserved. And these programs replace the hopes of a new beginning and the ideas and issues that have been brought to the Senate by the students over time. So let us evaluate the results of the Senate's work. The preceding 2 years before my presidency saw the passage of 0 pieces of legislation. These past 2 years saw the passage of exactly 30 pieces of legislation, new bylaws, and the issuing of 14 executive orders. The preceding 2 years before my presidency saw the spending of $20 towards a Senate website that was eventually shut down. These past 2 years, through bake sales and generous grants from the PTSO and Principal Sembridge, we spent $6,762, all of which was invested into successful community improvement initiatives. Within the Senate, we implemented multiple reforms through legislation and executive orders, leading to more organized committees, a more flexible presidency, a greater transparency in our records, and a greater connection with the student body and our other community organizations. Soon, a new student advocacy arm will be added to the Senate, an idea that has been in the work for 2 years, and will hopefully create a more effective way to respond to student concerns where new school policy would not be the solution. Most of our reforms are here to stay, and thanks to them, our success extends beyond the walls of this lecture hall. We successfully advocated, along with others, the repeal of the $125 student activity fee, for which I believe was an unfair barrier to participating in Newton South's clubs, and may have unintentionally discriminated against students from financially limited backgrounds. This was an initiative that had been on the agenda for over a year before my presidency, and was an issue that was very close to my heart. Many had told me it was impossible to achieve because it involved the school community. Well, we proved them wrong, and showed our community that when we put our minds to work, the Senate can indeed do great things. We successfully implemented a recycling program in the cafeteria, an item that had been on the old Senate agenda since I was in middle school. While the student body still needs to be fully educated on what can and can't go in the bins, this is a commitment and accomplishment the Senate will continue to build upon in the next year. We successfully found a solution to the question of having students eat in our auditorium lobby. While some of you at the time had questioned the necessity of purchasing high-quality bistro tables to force such a compromise with the administration, it has held now for more than a year. And let me inform you that the exact same tables can also be found at the street at Chestnut Hill and on Harvard University's campus. So I know our students have been given the highest quality tables. We saw the successful implementation of a liberalized electronics policy, which had been on the old agenda since at least 2010. Though in all fairness, the Faculty Council did play a larger role in that matter than we did. But we also achieved in many other areas as well. We put the first textbooks in 6167, opened the library's laptops to students during free blocks, donated money twice to the Global Education Leadership Fund, tracked the progress of homework-free weekends, expanded the number of tables outside by the Wheeler Breezeway, placed vending machines in the Cutler Commons, and soon a new grade transparency policy, as well as other stress reduction measures, all of which rank among our accomplishments. Through all this, we learned that you never know where a movement will end. Since 2011, Nick and I dreamt of improving the student government. We, the Senate, did that and improved our community. I hope the spirit of progress, devotion, and determination to succeed will continue to have a place in the Newton South Senate, for that's the spirit that this organization must continue to maintain success. We must continue to reach out a hand to students and maintain our willingness to help them in addressing their problems. We may not personally know every single student who brings a problem to the table. They may be from a different friend group from us, or they may be in a different grade. They may have different interests than us or come from a different background. But none of those are reasons to deny any student our services. For every time we reach out to a student, every time we try to address their difficulties, every time we strive to improve our school and advance towards what I call the great community, we spark a flame of hope and empathy that can truly light our school. To borrow the words of one of the first citizens of Massachusetts, John Winthrop, I've always seen Newton South High School for me as a shining city upon a hill. It is a place rife with opportunities, from vigorous sports to fun and award-winning clubs, to academically challenging and exciting courses. It is full of remarkable people, both faculty and students, who all contribute in their own way by finding their niche and displaying their talents. As an example to others, our community requires cultivation from all, students very much included. Whether it's through pushing oneself in the classroom or on the court, students have a responsibility to their school as well as themselves to make this community great. At times we may have doubts about our shining city, especially in view of the protests that made the local news and the tragic suicides of some of our own friends. But that shining city is neither a permanent paradise nor a resting point. It is a constant journey, renewed every year by our efforts to reach further and strive forward. Tragedy and disappointment should not be cause to give up or perpetuate cynicism, but cause for reflection and determination to strengthen our community. As a student legislative body of this school, the Newton South Senate plays an integral part in the cultivation of our community. We, among many others, are in a way the custodians, who must take great care in the fulfillment of our responsibility. Now, I would like to thank all of you who have played a major role in my presidency in the accomplishment of our goals these last few years. Throughout my high school political career, I've been sustained by my faith in representative democracy, and I've been sustained by many people as well. I've been touched by my fellow senators for their devotion to this organization, to our goals, and to public service, as well as for their trust in electing me their president twice, the second time unanimously. I've been counseled for many years by our advisor, Mr. Attendee, who not only takes time out of his busy schedule to support the Senate, but has given me invaluable advice and encouragement throughout my presidency. I've been able to accomplish many of my endeavors because of Principal Stembridge, Vice Principal Scott, Ms. Kaspari, and the rest of the administration. With their help, many of our ideas were brought to life. Our partnership has made our school a better place, and I have been delighted to work with all of them these past 4 years. Through the agreement I have with Mr. Stembridge, I take great pride in knowing that this closeness between the Senate and the administration will continue after I've graduated. I've been able to achieve many of our school policy goals because of Mr. Einstein, Mr. Gazzaro, and the faculty council, who have gone to great lengths to build a bridge between our two organizations to the benefit of our constituencies. I have thoroughly enjoyed working with them, and I hope the strong relationship between our two organizations will continue for many years to come. I've been encouraged and motivated by many of my teachers, who have given me knowledge inside and outside of the classroom. I've been warmed by the generosity of the PTSO and their support on multiple occasions of our work. Many of our projects would not have been possible without their munificent grants. Many, including myself, have benefited greatly thanks to the Nebula and the Lions Roar for their close coverage of our work and our affairs. And I have been bolstered by the Environmental Club and the custodians for our work in bringing recycling to our cafeteria, as well as April Lyles and the Winston's Culinary Group, who have collaborated with us on many cafeteria improvement initiatives. I've appreciated working with Ms. Falstead and Ms. Downey in bringing student ideas regarding the library to life. And I have benefited from the love and wisdom of my father, who assisted me throughout my Senate career, who has always been there for me when I needed him, and bequeathed upon me the skills necessary to be a good leader and a tireless campaigner. And I've been inspired and uplifted by the student body, and especially the class of 2014, by their continued support, their appreciation for me and my work, and their thunderous applause on every single election day since my freshman year. It was them who constantly reminded me why I continue to advocate for change, and they gave me the energy to continue in my mission, even during periods of great challenge. I've been strengthened by two tremendously loyal vice presidents who served alongside me and who have both earned their positions in the pantheon of great Senate leaders. First, by one of the greatest legislators of my time on the Senate, former Vice President Nicholas Herney, whose friendship and political partnership extends far back to my freshman year. None of our success would have been possible without his vision and his tireless work, and for that I'm deeply grateful. Nick has been there for me and the Senate, not only through his time at Newton South, but even from college. Second, by Vice President Peter Clapes, who answered a call to public service during his sophomore year and who took on the daunting task of becoming vice president in his junior year. As the youngest vice president in the history of this organization, he has proven to be a quick learner, and I don't believe there is anyone more qualified to lead the Senate into its next frontier than him. Finally, my presidency has been enriched by the outstanding work of Abby Packin, Richard Donito, Mikhail Yunus, Jason Ma, and Salil Fishman. These senators all shared my vision of the new beginning and worked tirelessly with me and our vice presidents to achieve our goals, even being willing to meet on weekends to write legislation and plan our year. No Senate president has ever been as blessed as I have been, and no Senate president should ask for more, although I have upon occasion. As my final act as president, I promise to do my best to ensure the smoothest presidential transition in the Senate's history. I will do everything in my power to ensure that the next president has the knowledge and training necessary to run the Senate and fairly represent the interests of the student body he or she represents. I'm even willing to devote a portion of my summer vacation if necessary to accomplish that goal. On your part, though, my fellow senators, I need you to make a promise as well. To assume the role of a leader who runs an organization of 30 people and represents the interests of 1,800 students is a hard feat. Whoever the next president is, he or she will need your support, your understanding, and your cooperation. I ask that you give that and more to the president during the first term of the school year in the fall, as you have given me on many occasions. And to whomever the next president is, whether in this room or not, I ask that you work to continue the momentum of change and progress that has been achieved these past 2 years. That does not necessarily mean always doing things the Jack Lovett way. In fact, rather, I hope you adopt the successful aspects of my administration and learn from my mistakes. These last 2 years have marked a new beginning for the Senate, but I know in my heart that as I am beckoned to new places, it really is time for another generation of leaders to build on that foundation and to write a new chapter in the history of the Senate. Today I walk into the sunset of my high school political career, but as long as the Senate has members who are devoted to making our school a better place and who take heed to the words of Abraham Lincoln, to a faith that right makes might, and in that faith to the end dare to do our duty as we understand it, then the sun shall continue to shine its favor on the Senate for many years to come. Now it's time to say farewell. I hope it may be said many years from now that by working together, we greatly improved our student government and helped to build within our school a great community for all of its students, regardless of a grade, and including those who will one day join the student body of this fine establishment. That is what I hope. But I believe that at least it will be said that we made a valiant effort. Thank you.